Okay, so if you're a coach from the Middle East and you're making less than $4,000 per month and you're struggling to get consistent paid clients, then I want to share with you a framework that's helped me to get consistent paid clients as well as my clients for the past, I don't know how many years. And so there are really just 4 steps that are needed in order for you to get consistent paid clients. And a lot of coaches, they complicate the process too much, right? Building a business can be really hard, perhaps one of the hardest things that you'll ever do, especially doing it as a coach, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And so that's really what I want to try and break down for you here today. I call it the 30-day get paid clients framework. And the idea is to be able to get paid clients or your next paid clients in 30 days or less. So get paid clients framework without, very important, without being pushy or salesy. You don't want to be in a position where you're trying to sell your coaching services, where you're trying to coerce people or convince people into buying what it is that you're selling. I think, I don't know if you're anything like me, I got into coaching and consulting because I want to help people. I don't want to feel like I need to, try and push my agenda or try and convince people to sell what I already believe is really truly transformational and valuable, right? And so here's the 30-day get paid clients challenge or 30-day get paid clients framework without being weird or salesy in 4 steps. And so the very first thing that you need is you need a niche. And there are really 3 pillars to your niche. Okay. And that is who, what, and how. Let me break this down for you real quick. So I'll give you an example from my niche, which is I help mostly coaches. A lot of them tend to be ICF coaches or Maxwell coaches. Some of them are other, but they're mainly ICF Maxwell coaches. They're mainly from the Middle East. They're mainly ages between, let's say, 37 to 50, sometimes older, just depending. They tend mainly to be women as well, although I do have some men as well who I coach. They tend to have a faith orientation. They tend to be quite big on their values of family, integrity, and most of them tend to be more reserved, or you could say maybe a little bit introverted. All right. And so a side note here is you are going to tend to attract people that are most like you in temperament and domain. And so anyway, so that's the who. We want to identify who are these people actually. And if possible, we want to be able to get into as much detail as possible, like what background are they from? What industry are they in? Do they have a family? How many children do they have? Why is this important? Because it helps you to understand how they might make buys decisions. And that's going to heavily impact whether they are going to be coming to you or whether you're the kind of person that would resonate with this audience or not. And so that you can use the right messaging in your marketing to attract them, and so that you can create the right coaching offers and programs and content that's really going to, again, resonate with them and attract them, so that you're never in a position where you feel like you need to chase clients, but rather that you're well positioned so that you can attract the right people. And you have the ideal clients, your ideal clients knocking on the door to work with you. And so the second thing is the what. Now, that's ultimately around the following reality, which is people are emotional beings and they're driven by 2 core emotions. And the most important emotion that they're driven by is pain avoidance. And so people are trying to get away from pain and they're trying to get towards pleasure. And so how we can put it simply is say that people are currently at point A and they want to get to point B. Okay. And so again, just using my example, the coaches who I start working with usually are at a place where they're not really making any money, or they're not making the kind of money that they want to make, and they're not doing it consistently. And they want to be able to be making money, right? So maybe their first $5,000 per month, as an example, and they want to do this consistently. Now, there may be a point C as well, which is, $10,000 per month and so on. And you might have other programs, but you just want to help this person get from point A to point B to kind of solve this immediate problem that they have. And so they are not making money, and so they don't have the freedom that they're looking for. They're not making the impact that they want to make. They feel stuck. They don't have clarity. they don't have confidence, right? And we want to be able to really identify where they're at and what are the details of their current reality. And again, the more that we can understand this, the more we will be able to use this in our messaging and our communication with them, and the more they're going to feel heard and understood, and the more we're going to be able to, again, attract the right people to us. And so where they're at right now, and then where do they want to be, which oftentimes is just like the opposite, which is, they have the freedom that they're looking for, they're making the impact that they want to make, et cetera, et cetera. And then the third thing is the how, so that's the how, which is how do we help them get from point A to point B? And so here's where you want to be thinking about your signature framework. So I have a 4-step framework. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You might have same or similar. And that's basically what I'm teaching you right now, which is in order for you to get from here to there, to get from no or low pay clients inconsistently to high paying clients consistently, you need your niche, you need an offer, you need a marketing system, and you need a sales system. I usually have a step 0 as well, which is mindset, which I'm not going to break down in this time today. But you want to have a framework, right? And so you could call that your signature framework. My signature framework is called the 30-day get paid clients framework for coaches. And that is really the vehicle that helps them get from point A to point B. So that is the vehicle that helps them get from point A to point B. One last thing here as well is people have different challenges in getting to where they want to be. But we want to try and identify what the biggest challenge is that's holding them back. If we can accurately identify what the biggest challenge is that's holding them back, and we can help them to overcome that, what that tends to do, it's almost like a big domino that falls down. And in many ways, some of the other challenges become a lot less relevant. And it tends to create a new level of belief and confidence in this person that, oh, wow, like if you can help me solve this thing, then I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to get it done. And so that's why, Russell Brunson refers to this as the big domino. We want to try and find what's the biggest thing out of all of the things that could be holding them back. What's the biggest thing that's holding them back? And it usually relates to one of 3 things, which I'll break down real quick in what I call the 3 pillars of achievement. So in order to achieve anything, let's pretend this is a mountain and your client is currently at point A, they're stuck and they want to be here at, point B. And you're ideally helping them to get there. Now, in order for them to get there, 3 things are required. Firstly, they need the steps or the strategy. So that's like the roadmap, like take step 1, 2, 3, 4, or you're currently at point A, point B, take these steps and you'll get to where you want to go. So it's like a roadmap that you're giving them. Then the next thing that they need is context. And context is knowledge. So they need to have the know-how. They need to have an understanding on this content of whatever domain that you're in. So for me, people need to understand the basics of business, sales, marketing, how do we attract clients, bring them in, and so on. And then the other one is skill. And this is really just developed with time and repetition. So that's the person, your client, needing to really do that work on their own. Now, you could have context and strategy, but still completely failed your goal if you don't have this last thing over here. And you really ideally need all 3. And the last thing is mindset. We know how important mindset is as coaches, and so I'm not going to go into too much there, but that's really your why, your motivation, your vision, etc. And then the next thing is belief. Firstly, that this is actually possible. They need to believe like, whoa, this is actually possible to build an online business, etc., etc. And secondly, they need to believe that I can actually do this. Excuse me, that's my daughter trying to come into my room while I'm trying to do this. So in order to achieve anything, these are the 3 things that are required, and something to keep in mind when you're also creating your program to help them to achieve the results. And so I'm just going to put this on the side here. And how this relates is that oftentimes when you are asking your clients, what the biggest challenge is that's holding you back, oftentimes it's going to link back to one of those 3 pillars, right? So if I hear somebody say that, the biggest struggle is that they don't know where or how to get started, okay, then I know that they have a strategy problem. Or sometimes they might say, I don't really know that much about business. Like, I'm completely new to business. Okay, it might be a context challenge. Or they might say, I have some level of clarity, but I don't know if I can do it. Right. So, okay, so that's going to be mindset, right? And particularly belief, or they're like, I don't feel that motivated. Right. So then it's probably going to be like a motivation issue. So we want to be able to try and identify what's the biggest one for our specific ideal audience. And again, that's going to help you to position yourself very well and to ensure that you're really hitting those pain points and demonstrating that you really are the go-to authority in the space. All right. So that was, that's called the 3 pillars of achievement, just for reference there. And why is all of this important? Why are these things important, right? So I call these the 3 pillars of your niche. And what you want to be able to do is consolidate that nicely into what we call a niche statement, which is basically, I help who with what. So that's like from point A to point B through my unique framework. Ideally, we want to, if we can, have a time frame in mind, and then without, let's say, a certain effort or a pain that they usually have. And so for me personally, I help coaches from the Middle East, et cetera, who are struggling to get paid clients consistently. They want to be able to do what they love full time through my 30-day get paid clients framework. Get paid clients in 30 days or less without. And then this without thing is very powerful, which is, what is that thing that your audience struggles with or is maybe hesitant because of in pursuing their goal? So in weight loss, for example, some people, when they're wanting to lose weight and get healthy and fit, one of their objections is that, they don't want to give up their favorite foods, or they don't want to spend hours in the gym. And so maybe if you're in the health space, you might say, I help these people lose weight in 30 days or less without giving up your favorite foods or without spending hours in the gym, right? In my world, one of the biggest objections that the coaches have who come to me for the first time is they don't want to be weird and salesy. Some of them say, I don't want to be constantly posting on social media and like just exposing myself. All right. And so you want to be able to include that and say, well, I help these people get to this result through my unique framework in this time frame without needing to be weird and salesy or be pushy and salesy, without needing like constantly posting on social media, without needing to expose yourself. Because again, a lot of these people that come to me are more reserved. They also come from a more reserved kind of cultural kind of background or context. And some of them are more introverted, right? And something that I very much relate to. And so that's really my framework. And so when you're able to consolidate what you do in this way, it can be very powerful, right? So that's like your niche statement. Why is this important? Because in the sea of all the other coaches out there or consultants, right? You might be a consultant watching this. You might be a dietitian watching this. You might be a therapist. I'm just using a coach just as kind of a universal term, but there are other players out there in the market. There are other people in the market, and your audience is currently stuck and they're distressed and they're confused because there are so many coaches out there. And to be honest with you, and you can go and have a look out there in the market, most coaches are just completely invisible, right? And that's often why they feel that they need to chase down clients somehow. But the reality is they're just not well positioned. And so what you want to do is you want to be well positioned like a beacon in the marketplace, like a lighthouse, so that you are the obvious choice for your specific who's struggling with a specific what, so that for them, it's a no-brainer for them to then go to you, right? So that you are the go-to professional in your niche, and so that you're attracting clients and you don't feel like you need to go out there and chase clients. All right. So that's really important. And how you do this, one of the ways that you do this is through your niche statement. You want to be very, very clear. And so I can already hear some people saying, like, okay, but I don't want to be sending people away. I don't want to be closing the door. Well, here's the reality is that you want to have what we call a funnel. And I'm sure you're familiar with that. And a funnel is really where you have tons of people who you could be working with, but you ideally want to be saying no to most of them, like 99% or more of them. And you only want the very select few to come through who meet your certain criteria of, are you a who struggling with what? If so, call to action, like follow me or click on the link or whatever. And then you're looking really for that 1%. Sometimes it's a percentage of even 1%. And that's really where you see the biggest players in the market, best coaches, consultants out there who are really dominating. They have this filtering funnel system, right? And that's ideally what you want to be able to do there. Okay, so that's your niche. Let's go over to your offer real quick. So that's the next thing that you need, is that you need an offer. A lot of people get confused with this, but it's very simple. So we want to be able to have an all-in-one solution to a narrow problem. So an all-in-one experience that encompasses and includes, considers these main things over here that people need for achieving their goal. Okay. What a lot of coaches do is they say, hey, I have a coaching program or a coaching package that they maybe sell, for example, I don't know, at like $500 or something like that, plus minus. This is what we don't want to do. That's what a lot of these coaches do. And it's part of the reason why they are not well positioned and why they are invisible. Instead, we want to have a high ticket. High ticket really just means like high paying offer, right? That is extremely valuable. In order for people to pay you a lot of money, they got to see a lot of value in what you're doing. And so how do you create value? How do you create this reality where people, ignore everyone else and they just look at you and what you have to provide, and they're like, wow, that's so valuable. Like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. A quick analogy is the following. So let's pretend your client is out there at sea and they're stuck. They're at point A and they want to be at point B, which is, their treasure island. That's like their goal that they want to achieve. Now, the problem is that they don't have the confidence, they don't have the experience, they don't have the skill. Like, these things are quite low. Otherwise, they would have already achieved their goal. And so the likelihood that they will actually achieve their goal is very, very low. So maybe they'll swim just a little bit, but then they'll sink and they'll drown. What a lot of coaches do is they're like, okay, well, what if we give them, or strategists or consultants, they're like, okay, well, we'll give you a roadmap, like a strategy. Okay. My question is always like, how helpful is that really? Because if people have the roadmap, well, they don't have the confidence and experience and the skill. And so maybe they have a sense in terms of where to go. They have a sense of direction, but it's still not going to take them very far. Right. And so again, they might get a little bit further, but they're still going to sink. And so we might give them like a compass to help them to navigate, right? Still the same thing. What some people will do is they'll say, okay, well, let's make it much, much easier. So let's say, what if we gave this person a boat? We gave our client a boat to sail on. How does that increase their chances? Well, it increases their chances a little bit because now they're not drowning, but they have no experience, confidence, and skill to how to navigate the sea, how to navigate the weather, how to sail a boat, as an example. And so maybe they get a little bit further, but still they don't really quite get to where they're wanting to go. And this is really the reality. This is what you see out there. So what do we do then? What is the big difference maker? What is the main thing that makes your clients go, oh my word, that is so valuable. Like it would be crazy not for me to go for that offer or that coach or whatever the case may be. It's this. It's if you were to sit next to them, hold their hand, guide them, and you were the one with the confidence, you're the one with the experience in this domain, you are the one with the skill because you've been to the island, like 1,000 times. What are the chances then? How does that increase the likelihood of achievement, their chances of success? Well, it drastically increases their chances of success. Of course, there's still work for them to do, but it drastically increases their chances of success, right? And so that's why coaching and mentorship is so powerful, is this dynamic of done with you, which is so valuable to people. Now, Alex Hormozi wrote a book called $100 Million Offers. And the main thing is basically, how do you create massive value? How do you create massive coaching, a high value, high priced coaching offers that people really want? And of course, he's not just speaking to coaches. So it could be anything that you're wanting to sell, but I'm just applying it to coaches. And the book is really around just 4 principles, like 4 principles that need to be in place in the right way in order for you to create something that's high value, so that you're not in a place where, like most coaches, you're selling maybe your coaching session, they're selling coaching sessions or coaching packages that aren't as valuable and aren't as obvious and well positioned. And so these are the 4 factors. The first thing is the goal needs to be attractive. It needs to actually be like what the person is looking for. I can't tell you how many coaches have certain promises in terms of what they help people to achieve that aren't even really in alignment with what the audience actually wants. And so your goal needs to be very attractive. The chance of success needs to be high. The person needs to feel like, if I'm working with this person, the chance of success is going to be quite high, right? So things like, that's why testimonials are so powerful, right? That's why it's very helpful to have credentials and obviously your experience and how many people you've helped. So those 2, then speed. So if I can help somebody get to where they want to go quicker, so in 30 days or 15 days rather than like 30 days or 30 weeks or 30 months, is a way more valuable, right? And so if we can cut the time to get to their goal, that is valuable. And also the last thing is, if we can help them get there easier with more simplicity while avoiding the headache, right? Because a lot of people are just trying to do things on their own and they're just running into the same wall. They're running around in circles, wasting time and energy and motivation. And they're getting tired. And that's often where people give up. And so you want to be able to help people get there with more simplicity. And so that's what you want to try and demonstrate in your offer when you are thinking of putting it together. Now, a simple offer, like what does this actually look like right now for you? If you're building your offer stack, it's basically what is included in the thing that you are selling. So as an example, I've got the program, the 30-day get paid clients mentorship program, one-on-one mentorship program or one-on-one challenge for coaches from the Middle East, whatever. And included in this is my framework. So those are that's the roadmap, right? It's like an online course that I give the coaches access to. Then this is the most important thing, is my help, my one-on-one help. There's also group help as well, right? So they have access to one-on-one mentorship, group mentorship, and that's to help them implement this roadmap. And that honestly is the thing that is most valuable for you in your offer, is your own one-on-one help, right? That's the thing that is portraying the most value. And then I'm not to go into too much detail here, but let's just call them other bonuses, things that help them to get there quicker and easier, right? So they might be things like done for you tools or other done for you services. And so normally how this works is, do-it-yourself, like a do-it-yourself component, like there's homework to do, there's a course to go through. This is done with you. This is you helping them step by step by step. All right, let me write that down because that's very important. You're helping them step by step. It's like having a guide, you as the guide next to them. And then this is oftentimes like some done for you components to help them to do it quicker and easier. And then what you do is you just tally that up. There's a certain value to that. So maybe for our offer right now, it's about $67,000 in value. And then sometimes we give away scholarships. So for certain coaches, maybe it's going to cost about $1,200 or $1,000 to $2,000, just depending, right? And so you want to have a certain value, and then you might have a special offer specifically again for your audience. You want to be in a position again where you are selecting, you're qualifying, you're attracting the right people, very much like a doctor. A doctor is not somebody that goes out and chases clients necessarily, right? A doctor usually is somebody who has her whole schedule booked out for weeks in advance. And you want to be able to position yourself not just as any doctor, right? Not like a GP. You want to position yourself rather as a specialist, as a surgeon. Almost like a brain surgeon in a small village. Now, if you're a brain surgeon or the only brain surgeon in a small village, you're not in a place where you are going out needing to try and find clients or chase people down. You have your schedule booked out maybe for the whole year, right? And so that's the power, again, of positioning, of being that go-to authority, like a lighthouse, attracting your dream clients, right? Is by being a specialist, not a generalist. And that's also why it's so important to get very specific about who it is that you're wanting to serve. So that's your offer. The next thing is marketing. And then so it's basically just two more steps here. Marketing, and it's really your attraction system. You want to have people coming to you. Attraction system. Now, how I see this is the following. So you want, ideally, every month, you want a consistent flow of qualified, not just any leads, but qualified leads coming in to your world and into your funnel, really, right? And there are different layers of your funnel. Okay, so the first layer is you need to have leads coming in. And then the next one is you need to have these leads being nurtured, right? So they need to come to know, like, and trust you before they ever think about buying from you or working with you. Okay, so we want to have them nurtured, and then we want conversion to take place here. That's usually where the sales process would take place, so that you have consistent clients coming in every month. What I see a lot of coaches do is they create social media content and they post, and they think that that's what's going to bring them leads, which is very, very, very seldom the case. This is just middle of the funnel, mid funnel, right? And so we can create content until we're blue in the face, but if we don't have consistent leads coming in for people to actually see the content, it's going to be largely, well, it's not going to be that effective, right? And so this is bottom of funnel. So this is like your sales or your calls that you have with people. But what we want over here at the top, and this is what I want to get to here, are different methods of bringing in leads. This is called lead generation, right? And so how I see it, just to break this down, are like little taps. You want to have these little taps that are flowing each month, and you want to keep them on. That are, what are they doing? They are bringing in leads every single month. Now, there are different methods, and you ideally want as many taps as possible to keep that flow coming in. You do not want your funnel to run dry or run empty, because that's when you don't have consistency. That's when you don't have predictability, and you don't know if you can confidently do this full time if you're in a job, as an example, and you're wanting to do this full time. But if you have these taps on, that's going to give you the confidence. And so one of the first methods I recommend is warm outreach or warm reach out. And I share this in my masterclass that I did for ICF Lebanon a while ago. And so if you want to learn how to do that, just ask me for the masterclass. I'm happy to send it over to you. It should also just be on my social media channels. You should be able to watch that. There are other channels, there are other ones that are, using social media. So this is called the Instagram funnel, which I'll share with you now. And then there are other methods as well, like referral programs, affiliates, and so on, right? We don't have time to go into that, but you want to have, firstly, this system in place, which I share in the masterclass, and so you can check that out. And then you want to have this system over here in place. And this is really the go-to funnel for coaches that I've seen out there. And all the credit goes to Brandon Forbes from Kingdom Coach. I learned the process. I implemented the process, got amazing results in a way that was more simple than I'd ever done before. And so that's what I'm going to be breaking down for you, which has been truly transformational for me, and I think maybe for you as well. And if you're watching this video, it's highly likely that you're watching it because you've been through the same process of the Instagram funnel. And so that's what I'm going to share with you here. So the Instagram funnel just has a few simple components. And by the way, you don't need fancy websites or landing pages or any of that technical stuff for this. It's really, really basic. I'm going to share it with you real quick. The first thing that you need is what we call a follower video. And this is the thing that actually brings in the leads through the top here, where people are actually, this is the awareness phase. People need to become aware that you actually exist. Then you need to nurture them, and then the conversion takes place. So how does this work in the context of the Instagram funnel? So, and this is on my Instagram as a pinned post. It's one of the posts that says something about ICF Coach, where I have this exact video where I started getting a lot of leads, really, really great, highly qualified leads and great clients as well. And basically, this is the structure. It's like a 45-second video. And I say, hey, I was targeting specifically ICF coaches there. Are you an ICF coach from the Middle East making less than $4,000 per month? And you are struggling to get paid clients consistently. You're struggling to find your niche, blah, blah, blah. If so, and then I give a call to action. Now, the call to action can be different in some cases, but specifically with your first kind of post or your video, you want to make it a follower video where people are coming in. So the call to action would be click on the link and follow me, where I'll share with you how you can get paid clients consistently, right? And then what they do is that they become followers. Now, are we looking for followers? No, we're not specifically looking for followers, because not all followers necessarily translates to clients, right? Let me write that down here because this is so important. Not all followers equal clients. And so we're looking for, yes, they're coming in as followers, but ideally what we're looking for are qualified leads. So if people see this and they're like, yes, that's me. I'm a coach from the Middle East making less than $4,000. I'm struggling to get paid clients. Then 10 to 1, they've clicked the link because they are my ideal clients. They are in alignment with the who and the what that I'm looking for. And so now I have qualified leads coming to me. Oftentimes what they do is they might click on my bio, or they click on your bio where you say, I help who with what. That's where your niche statement is. And sometimes you have a link that, call to action where people can click. All right. And then the next phase here is a conversation, a very, very simple conversation. And again, if you're watching this video, we probably already had this conversation. And the first thing is just an intro, which is, for me, I say, for example, hey, Jane, this is Warren speaking, just reaching out to say thanks for the follow. If there's anything you need support with regarding getting more coaching clients or expanding your business, feel free to reach out. In the meantime, wishing you all the best and God bless. Just something really simple. And then people would generally respond to that. If you don't, then you might send a follow-up message just saying, hey, Jane, just checking if you got my message. And then you go into what I call discovery process. And again, this is only for if this is the ideal person that you're looking for. And you would ask these 3 questions. How are things currently going with whatever domain you're in? Like if you're a health coach, how are things currently going with like your lifestyle and your health? If you're a business coach or consultant like me, I say, how are things currently going in your coaching business? right? So how are things currently going? Point A. What are your main goals at the moment? And then what is the big thing that's holding you back from achieving that goal? I cannot stress this enough. Unless you have that information, unless you have collected that through discovery, you have no business in continuing a conversation. Because anything you say after this, if you don't first establish those three things, is going to come across as salesy. And that's where a lot of coaches, I think, get confused here. And so the next thing from here is, if you feel that they're the right match, and well, most of them should be because you've qualified them through this access, kind of like a funnel, then you would offer them some solution. Okay, so I'm going to write you a solution. Now, either your solution is you give them some kind of resource like your framework, your signature framework, or if there's somebody that you're confident that you would want to work with and that you can work with, and based on their answers, it feels like they might be the person that is, you can tell that that they're in need and they're in pain and they really want to have this solved. That's really important. Two things you want to look for is, are people willing to pay and are they able to pay? So if we can pick this up over here, then oftentimes you would offer them a call to actually help them, like a quick one-on-one call to help them. Where, what do you do in your call? You just share with them your strategy, right? And so in the call, then you would share your strategy and you would basically help them. That's the main thing. And then near the end of the call, oftentimes people would actually ask me and say, hey, well, can you help me to implement this, right? So I'm not even the one presenting anything. And if they don't, you would just ask them very simply at the end, hey, well, was this session helpful? Does everything make sense? Can you see the value in it? And then you would ask them, are you at a place where you currently looking for help to implement this, right? And if not, then great, you get off the call. And if yes, then you can share with them your offer. And then oftentimes they will become a client. Right now, we have conversion rates of about 60 to 80%, which in our history is the biggest it's ever been. And it's largely due to the fact that we have this filtering system in place. And so by the time people get on a call, most of those people really are the right fit and they are actively looking for solutions. So you don't have to do any selling. Like, that's literally the main point there. And then even if they don't become clients, you either have built what we call goodwill and a sense of trust, which tends to come back to you. So you might have other people then coming into your business from that, or they might come back later. A referral, which is basically free leads coming into your system, which is great. Maybe a testimonial, which is also great because that increases the value of your offer and your credibility. Or if none of that, you're doing what you love anyway, right? And so this is a win-win-win-win-win for yourself and everyone involved. And it's really easy to do this, right? To ask for a referral. Hey, do you know any other who's who are struggling with the what? We have a couple. I'm taking on another X amount of new coaches to help them get paid clients in 30 days or less. Does anyone you know come to mind? Right? And sometimes what will happen is that same person will be like, hey, I'm actually interested, right? Or they might say, let me think about it. Or they might say, I have somebody in mind, right? And this can be a very powerful source of lead generation, right? This could be like a separate tap for you over here, right? We call that your referral program. And one simple and powerful way you can do that is just by asking people that you work with, hey, do you know any other who's are struggling with what? And then give them a very simple way for them to share the opportunity. Okay. Asking for testimonials, super easy as well. One of the things you can ask at the end of the call is, how did today's call help you with what you had in mind? And most times they're going to be like, this was super helpful. And obviously, if you've done your job properly, they're going to be like, wow, this was super helpful. Thank you so much. In that case, you say, well, hey, would you mind writing a very short testimonial? That would really help me. And then, most people are quite generous and they'll say, yeah, for sure. Right. And especially because you basically help them for free. And then share with them a very simple framework on how they can do that. All right. So let's move on. Yeah, we're currently on the third step. Let's move on to the fourth step, which is sales. Now, sales is a very sensitive thing. As I say the word sales, what's the feeling that comes into your mind and your heart, right? A lot of us think of the pushy salesperson that's trying to sell you something that you don't want, right? Or those people, I remember being in certain areas of Dubai where you're just trying to mind your own business, and there are these people that just trying to sell you these watches that you don't really want, right? They're trying to like push it down your throat. And so that's the association with sales. And so one thing about sales is that you cannot ignore it. Like sales and selling is essential for building a business. Now, you want to ideally be in a position where you're not the one selling, right? I've said for the longest time that sales isn't about convincing. Now, I will amend that and say that sales is about convincing. It's just that you're not the one that should be doing the convincing. Your prospect should. You see, at the end of the day, people are free agents, and they're going to make the decisions that they want to make on their own, right? And even if you can coerce someone or push somebody into making a choice in the short term, most times it ends up not working out very well in the long term. So ideally, if people are to really sign up with your program or whatever you're selling, it needs to be because they wanted to, and it was a decision that they led. So how do you do this? How do you sell without selling? How do you have somebody be convinced without you being the one to convince, right? And I'll get to that. I'll just say that sales is about leadership, and we can't lead if we don't care, right? Sales is about asking questions, not giving answers. Sales is about discovery, not about telling. You see, sales is not about what you say. Sales is about what you need to hear them say. And so questions play a very vital role there. And I'm just paraphrasing and consolidating and simplifying some of these principles in the short time that we have. But what's really important to know is that if your client is going to say yes, it needs to be because they want to. It needs to be led by them. And so how do you structure this in this way? And it's actually very simple. And I'm going to share it with you real quick. So the first thing is, and here's the structure of, I would say, any effective sales call where you are selling high ticket, right? Again, we're wanting to sell high ticket here. If you're selling low ticket, you can get away with being pushy and maybe getting a couple of sales in. But when people are forking out a few $100 or $1,000 at a time, it's really important that it's done well. And so the first thing is intro. For example, hey Jane, well, nice connecting with you. I know we had a discussion on, Instagram or whatever, and we got to this place where I just wanted to help you specifically with what it is that you were speaking about or that you shared. And so the purpose of the call today is, and that's expectation, right? And that's part of leadership. You telling people this is what we're doing today. The purpose of the call today, Jane, is for us to get to know each other a little bit better, to speak about your goals and challenges, to give you the help that you need. And if at the end of the call that you're at a place where you're wanting some additional help, we can potentially explore the option of working together. Does that sound fair enough? And then Jane would say, yeah, that sounds fair enough. And then you would go into discovery. Discovery is very important. So I usually ask these questions, which is like, what motivated you to book this call with me today? Like, what is their why? And people are going to start to tell you, like, I'm currently at a place where blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they will tell you the answers to the next questions that you would have already just with that question. But if they don't, you ideally want to find out, where are you at right now? Where do you want to be? And then, of course, like, what's the biggest challenge that's holding you back, right? Those same three things, very, very important. Otherwise, there's no business continuing in the discussion until you have gathered that data through discovery. And then, like a doctor, you're going to say, okay, well, I have a solution for that, right? And then you're going to give them the solution. Now, when you give them the solution, you're just going to share your framework, right? Point A to point B. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm saying, like, step 1, step 2, step 3, and we're currently on step 4, right? And you share that with them. And then any other help that you can, like answering questions and so on, in the time that you have. At the end of the call, you're going to ask for like feedback, basically like, how did today's session help you with what you had in mind? And if the answer is like positive, like, wow, this was amazing, this was very good, then you would go on to the next one. If not, then you would try and see if there's another way that you can help them, right? But most cases, you know, if we're good at what we do and we're doing it properly, we're going to hit the needle on the head for people. So if the response is positive, then you want to assess whether this person is at a place where they're actually seeking help in implementing the framework that you just taught. And the way that you do that is usually ask the benefit question, right? Which is, so you're currently at point A and you're wanting to get to point B. You have the roadmap that I shared with you. Let me ask you this, Jane, how different would things be for you if you had support, if you had a guide, you had tools and resources to help you to get there much quicker and much faster? How different would that be? And then from there, again, you can get to know if this person is at a place where they're like, really are wanting to seek help or not. And if they're unsure or the response is not very clear or positive, then you jump off the call. But in most cases, people will indicate that they really are in need, right? So there's a very strong sense that they're actively looking for help. And then what you want to do from there is you really want to try and quantify how much help. Basically, you're trying to quantify the value of having your help before actually going into sharing how you can help. So this would depend on how they answer this question. So if they say, for example, yeah, this would be very helpful, I would ask the follow-up question to try and quantify how helpful would it be? Or what would it enable you to do differently or achieve differently, right? And then they're either going to say something that's going to relate to speed, in which case, if they say it's going to help me get there a lot quicker, then I would ask how much quicker, because I want to try and quantify that. Or it's going to come down to ease or simplicity, right? So they might say, I'm going to be able to do it so much easier. How much easier, right? And so you really want to try and, not just for yourself, but you want to help them quantify the value of actually having your help. So that ultimately, if anyone's selling anything, it's them selling themselves on the idea that they actually need this help before you even present the solution. So by the time you present the solution, people are already at a place where they are fully convinced in their mind that this is exactly what they need. And therefore, you don't need to do any, again, pushing or convincing or selling or anything like that. They are the ones that are doing the convincing in their own mind. And if people aren't convinced in their own mind, for example, if they don't respond well to that question, then you just, you jump off the call, because we're here to help people that want help, not need help, but want help, who are actively looking for help. And this is what you're trying to quantify and assess here. Sometimes people might say something around also the chances of success, right? It's going to help them ensure that they actually get there. It's going to increase their chances of success. And those are really three of those main things from the value equation over here that we discussed there. And so you could even say, how much more likely do you feel you'd be able to achieve your goal with all of this, if you had help and support and so on, right? And so you really want to try and quantify that. And then the next question you want to ask after that is the importance question, which is basically, how important is it for you right now to whatever they said? So if they said to get there, it's going to help me get there like in half the time. Then you say, well, how important is it for you to be able to achieve what you want to achieve in half the time that you would on your own, right? And again, this is embedding in their mind the idea that, wow, this is something I really need. Or maybe at this point they realize like, hey, maybe it's not that important. And if it's not that important, or if they're unsure, then you get off the call. But if they're like, whoa, this is very important, then you would continue the conversation. And then, so now you are only sharing the solution, which is your offer, in which you would say, okay, well, we have a program that helps specifically who with what in time frame. So I would say, well, we have a program that helps coaches just like you get their first paid clients in 30 days or less without being weird or salesy. And we're taking a couple of coaches at this time, or we have certain special offers available for the month of August or whatever it is. Is this something you'd like to explore? And then most times people are going to be like, yes. So notice that they're always the one that is leading the decision. You're just facilitating the conversation, but they're leading their own decisions, and that's really important. And so then you would show your offer, so which is like your framework, one-on-one help, tools, everything that's in your offer. It's valued at this amount, and maybe you have like a certain special offer for this amount for the month of September or whatever, right? And you're taking in maybe like 3 people or 3 coaches at a time. So it's very clear what it's for, who it's for, how how much space is available, and what the criteria is, right? And I would have certain criteria. So I didn't just let anyone in the program. I asked them questions around what is your capacity? How ready would you be for something like this? Because I've been in experiences where I've wanted to make sales, and I've maybe needed money, and I've accepted clients that I really should not have accepted. And so I've definitely burnt my fingers before. And so I speak from experience in saying, you definitely want to make sure that you are working with the right client, right? And so I would have certain criteria in my mind before jumping on a call with them that I would ask them questions around to make sure that we're the right match. Some of the questions I ask is, how ready would you be for something like this? What is your capacity time-wise, emotionally, mentally? Is this amount over here something that you can comfortably and confidently set aside as an investment? And once we have all of these things in place, then I say, okay, so you basically then accepting them as a client. Of course, it's for them, they need to still pay and everything, but now you have that qualification process in place. And then from there, it's decision time, which is now it's time to decide. And either it's a 100% yes, which is great, and then you would go, and then you would close, and then they become a client, right? Or you want a no. So either you want a very clear yes or a very clear no, just because like it doesn't make sense for us to work together for whatever reason. Either they've decided maybe they don't have the capacity, or you've decided that you don't feel like they're ready, right? Which is totally fine. Or oftentimes what we have is objections or uncertainty. Now, a lot of people kind of get scared of this, right? They're hesitant. But objections are actually really good things, because it means that people are they're like almost there. They just need a few more dominoes to be pushed over. Up to 60% of calls have objections. And so what does that mean? That means if we don't know how to deal with objections, we're losing out on 60% of our sales. And so if we're making $4,000, we could be making 10. So we want to be able to know how to handle objections correctly. We won't have time to go into exactly the process for this now, but I'll share with you the main idea of what an objection really is, so that you have some concept of how to approach them in the right way. And so an objection really is kind of like fruit on the tree. So if the fruit is the objection, like I can't afford it, or now it's not the right time, or let me think about it, or whatever, oftentimes it's not like a real objection. Oftentimes it's just at the roots, it's just an issue with trust. People need to have trust with you and your offer and themselves before moving forward. So they got to have trust in you. They got to have trust in your offer, right? Like the solution, the vehicle that gets them from point A to point B. It's got to make sense to them. And they've got to believe that they can do it. So they got to believe that they themselves can actually do this. So the objections are going to come down to either one of those 3 things. And if you can identify what they are and effectively deal with them, and there might be multiple objections, then what ends up happening is you get from an objection to a yes. And then in some cases, there's going to be an objection that is actually real. For example, if the person is just not at a place to invest in this at this moment. But that's very seldom, because if you've already asked them this question here and they've said, yes, I can comfortably set aside this amount, right? It avoids those instances. But even if they do come back and they say, hey, this is not something I can afford right now, not only is it important for you to respect and accept that, but it's important for you to, as the leader, to be able to decide whether this is going to make sense for them or not. Because one of the worst things to have is a client that has bankrupt themselves or gone into massive amounts of credit to work with you, and then they're working with you and they're just a ball of stress, right? And their creativity, their cortisol is up and their creativity is super, super low. You can't really work well with somebody like that. So once you've gone through that process, you either have a very clear no, in which case you jump off the call, or a very clear yes, in which case you share the details, how the client can pay and all of those things. And then after the call, sometimes what is required are follow-ups. Not because people don't want your program or necessarily that they're on the fence, but sometimes things just get really busy. But because you've gone through all of that already with them, this entire process, you've been on this journey together, and you've developed so much trust, you have the permission to follow up in very friendly ways with something like, for example, if there's a deadline of your offer, which on your offer, which you definitely should have, which is on Friday and we're currently on Wednesday, then you want to be able to send a message and just say, hey, Jane, just a friendly heads up about the offer that is on Friday, if you wanted to still secure this offer in working together. So something as simple like that can oftentimes spark the response of, oh my word, thank you so much for the reminder. And then sometimes they will tell you, you know, I'll pay today, or I'll pay tomorrow, or I'll pay on that day. Sometimes people will tell you, hey, I'm actually struggling to get the finances in place. Would you mind giving me another, or could you give me some more time? In which case, then you can handle it accordingly. So those are the 4 steps on how to get paid clients consistently. That's a 30-day get paid clients framework, which is your niche. You want to have a profitable niche with people that are both willing and able to pay, willing and able to pay, right? And we want to get very specific about that through the 3 pillars of your niche, which is the who, the what, and the how, so that you have a niche statement, so that you are a beacon for people and you're attracting clients rather than feeling like you need to chase clients in the market of all the other clients out there. The second thing is you want to have an offer which is high ticket, which means that it needs to be extremely valuable, which means that it needs to have those 4 components of creating value, which is an attractive goal, high chance of success, speed, and ease. Those are the things you want to incorporate in your offer. And then you want to have your offer stack with those different components, right? Your help being the most important one. Okay? And then the third thing is you want to have an attraction system or marketing system. So an attraction system. And an attraction system is basically like having those little taps that bring in consistent qualified leads, right? That's what we're looking for. So qualified leads each month. And there's different ways of doing that. There's, of course, the warm reach out method. And then there's the Instagram funnel method, which I shared with you above. And there are also other methods as well. We want to have a consistent flow of these leads coming in to our funnel so that we can have consistent clients coming in. All right. And then we want to have a sales system that is non-salesy. Sales process or system, which is really about discovery and taking them through that. So I hope that that is helpful, and I hope that helps you get your first and your next paid clients consistently. If you are looking for help, then somewhere probably at the end of this video, or I will share this separately with you, is a link that you can click to apply for the 30-day Get Paid Clients Challenge, where I help the coaches on a step-by-step basis to get their paid clients in 30 days or less, guarantee backed, and without being weird or salesy. Hope that was helpful, and I will see you soon.